So how do you tattoo realistic textured hair? Well, I can tell you what not to do. I know most artists' instinct is to plug in a liner and start pulling in lines to do each individual strand of hair. But you should avoid doing this. What you actually want to do is the exact opposite. You're going to take a round mag and fill in the areas between the strokes of hair. Then next, you're going to do a second layer of shading where you darken the openings that you left for the strokes of hair. Now, a thing you want to be sure of is that you don't fully saturate those dark points, so that way when you do your second layer, you're not over traumatizing the skin, as well as making sure those edges are soft so nothing has a hard edge and retains this realistic look. How to get smooth and even shading with the liner. You can improve this in 2 simple steps. Most artists are swinging improperly. You need to make sure that your swing start and end points aren't harsh like this. Instead, try to ensure that the beginning and end of your swing has less pressure than the center of the swing. If you find this difficult, you can also go in one direction and just pull your swings, but make sure you're lifting off lightly to allow you to transition to the next point. You then must repeat this technique going in a different direction, so that way you can shade an area in that has soft edges on all corners. From there, you can repeat this process as many times as you like until you've shaded in the desired area. This is something even I haven't mastered yet, so practice as much as you can. The needle doesn't need to go as deep as you think it would. This is because the 3 layers of the skin are the epidermis, dermis, and subcutaneous layer. The epidermis is as thin as a sheet of paper. Now, the dermis is the layer of skin you want to be putting the ink in. Depending on the part of the body, the thickness of the dermis can range from 1 to 4 millimeters. To put this in perspective, an everyday school pencil is only 5 millimeters wide. So based off that, we know that on average, we only want to be putting the needle 1 to 2 millimeters into the skin. You must see your mag as a brush. The skin is the canvas and the ink is the paint. Backstroke is you dragging your mag from the top down towards yourself, slowly adding layers of ink as you do this. This motion is fundamental to me getting smooth shading. Creating even tones and transitioning to darker tones is easiest with this motion. Second most used movement for me is pendulum. Pendulum is when you swing the needle back and forth over the skin. This allows you to enter and exit the skin in a continuous motion. I typically use this in very short motions to fill in small areas. Pendulum allows me to continuously move my mag in these small areas and still keep everything smooth. But oftentimes, you'll need to couple it with this motion. I call this crescent. This motion is what you use in conjunction with the other movements. This allows you to add curvature to your stroke. So I tattooed myself because a lot of people say that my techniques don't work on actual skin. After shading in this area above my knee, I started taking videos of the healing process. Initially, you can see the first couple of days, then a week after, and then at this point, it's been 2 weeks and it is all healed up and looks pretty much the same as it did when I first did it. So you guys let me know what you think in the comment section. Hands are one of the most difficult things to tattoo. Due to the anatomical structure of the hand, it requires a lot of loose skin in order to maintain a high level of mobility. And many tattoo artists find this frustrating. My solution to that is having my clients ball their hand up in a fist rather than keeping it open. Putting their hand in this position automatically stretches the skin on the top of the hand. This makes it 10 times easier to line and shade without worrying about going too deep or if most of the ink is going to fall out, because we all know that problems getting off excess ink off of your fake skin. What you want to do is take a generous amount of ointment, apply it to the area, take some green soap and spray it over that. Then with your hand with a glove on, you're going to apply it in all the areas where the ink is sitting. Make sure you're applying a good amount of pressure. Then grab a fresh paper towel and wipe the area down. Use as much pressure as you need to. You can repeat this process depending on how much ink is stuck on your surface, instead of having to deal with what's the best tattoo machine for beginners. Number 1 on my list is the Mast Fold Pro. Number 2 would be the Easy Tattoo P3. And last but not least is the Dark Knight Tattoo Machine by OG Produce. These machines are the best for beginners because they have adjustable strokes. This will allow you to adjust to your personal needs for any tattooing, whether it be lining, shading, or color packing. Fold Pro is the best to me because I liked how the motor felt the most on this one, as well as the knob that adjusts the stroke having the right type of snap. I found the P3 to be a little too hard to turn and the Dark Knight to be a little too easy to turn, but everyone will have different opinions. I have discount codes and Amazon links to these machines down in the description or in my bio. Stroke is how far your machine pushes out the needle. So basically, the higher the stroke, the harder the machine hits, essentially. And so to keep it simple, I'll show you these numbers. On average, you're gonna see these numbers in a tattoo machine. So 3.0 to 3.5, that's the average numbers you'll see. So this is gonna be a good overall machine. All right, now when you start to see higher numbers, this is more so for color packing. Once you get something up here to like a 5.0, that's the Bishop Wand liner. That is actually, we make a joke about that machine. We call it the chainsaw because it hits so hard. All right, and then you're gonna see, I've even seen some as low as 2.5. That's gonna be super soft hitting shading machine. Want to get a nice crispy photo? There's 3 things you're going to need in order to properly remove glare. First thing you're gonna want is a studio light. This is the brand newer ring light. I'll leave a screenshot of the one I've purchased here below on Amazon. Next, you're gonna want polarizer film. Now, depending on the dimensions you buy, you may need to cut it and make sure it fits so that way you can tape it over the light. Then you're gonna need a CPL polarizer filter to put over your iPhone. Here's the one I grabbed. It covers all 3 of the lenses if you have any of the pro versions of the iPhone. Once you have those 3 things, you can rotate your filter until you see the glare removed from the tattoo. Something to note about this filtering, it will show every single flaw that's in your tattoo. Any lines that may have been a bit wobbly or shading that was inconsistent will pop out through this. I try to avoid black backgrounds as this can create an excessive amount of contrast in the photos or videos unless my client is of a darker skin tone. Sometimes you may need to make sure that the studio light is set to the proper setting. If it's too high, then it can also create this effect no matter the background, or if it's too low, it may not create the effect enough. The other thing you want to make sure of is that you don't have any other lights that aren't polarized on nearby when you're taking the photo. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to remove glare from them. So you guys have heard me say this probably 1,000 times by now, but the key to this is to lower your voltage. That way, it takes longer for the machine to put ink into the skin, which allows you to move slower and take your time with doing work that requires such precision. I would consider micro portraits much more difficult than regular size portraits. So there's a few things that I will recommend that will help you get better results. Number 1 is going to be your needle choice. I would definitely recommend getting a bug pin mag, a 7 mag, or if they carry a 4 mag, that's ideal as well. Now for your liner, you don't need bug pin, but you can have a bug pin 3 just for really small details, but most of the time a regular 3 works just fine. You also want to keep your voltage lower because this is a smaller area you're going to be working in. So working at 5.5 or 6.5, I have seen the best results. Here's how it's healed up. Let me know what you guys think. Here's another example of me cross-hatching on real skin. A lot of people questioned whether this technique would tear up the skin. I think what a lot of people need to understand is voltage and hand speed is the biggest contributions to how much trauma will be afflicted on the skin. Also, there is no set number on how many times you can do passes on the skin. Again, the biggest contributing factor to how many times you can go over the skin will be your hand speed and your voltage. How long you've been working on the skin and your client's skin type are also big contributing factors. For those who want a reference point on what voltage I'm at, right here I'm on 7.7 volts with a machine that has a 3.5 millimeter stroke. So another thing to note is that your machine's stroke is going to also be a big determining factor on how many passes you can do on the skin, as machines with longer strokes can cause more trauma depending on your voltage. This is why practice and experimentation is going to be very crucial to improving your technique. But what needles do you use? The ones I recommend are Quadrant, Kin Tattoo, Cheyenne, and Easy Tattoo.